Welcome back, agents. So today we're going behind the scenes and taking a deep dive into Real Brokers' finances. Because after all, switching your business to a new company like Real is kind of a big deal, right? Especially if you have a team or your own brokerage, and you want to make sure that all of their finances are looking good, that all the numbers are up and to the right. And there's one specific number that I want to really kind of dive deep into, and that is their net operating loss for Q2 of 2021. On the surface, the net operating loss sounds kind of like a scary thing. I think I can make a pretty good argument, though, that that is exactly what you want to see in a growing and quickly expanding company. So today we're going to take a look at a press release going over their Q2 2021 financial reports. Now, we did just finish Q3 of 2021, and as soon as they release that press report, I'll probably do a video about that as well. But right now, the Q2 data is all that we have. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And it says here that revenue has increased 790% in the second quarter of 2021 to $23 million compared to $2.5 million in Q2 of last year. So in 12 months, their quarterly revenue went from $2.5 million to $23 million in just a 12-month period. That is huge, and that is exactly the type of growth that you want to see in a company. It goes on to say that gross profit grew 764% to $2.4 million in the second quarter of 2021 compared to $281,000 in Q2 of 2020. And let's skip down to the bottom here where it says cash flow from operations increased approximately 214% to $706,000 compared to Q2 of last year. So far, all three of these numbers, their revenue, their profit, their cash flow, all look fantastic. They grew tremendously in a 12-month period. Everything is up and to the right, which is exactly what you want to see. But it's this next line that may have some people concerned. It says that net operating loss was $2.9 million in the second quarter of 2021 compared to net loss of $1.2 million in the second quarter of 2020. Now this phrase net operating loss, I actually had to kind of look that up just to make sure I'm really understanding it. But according to Google, it says that under US federal income tax laws, a net operating loss occurs when certain tax deductible expenses exceed taxable revenue for a taxable year. So my understanding of this phrase, net operating loss, means that their tax deductions exceed their taxable income. So for me, as a non-accountant and non-financial advisor, how I'm interpreting this is that their revenue is up, their cash flow is up, their profit is up, but they're reporting a net operating loss of $2.9 million. That means that they're reinvesting that money into the company and then taking a tax deduction for that amount of money. And as an insider, as an agent at Real, that is exactly what I'm seeing them do. So for example, just recently they invested a tremendous amount of time and money into developing a new agent app. And this thing is one of my favorite features of being an agent here at Real. Just all the transparency with all our data right here on this app. And then they also developed a web-based app as well, so you can access all this information and more on your computer as well. And so that's one example of them investing into the company and not expecting to see a return on that investment until down the road. And let's say they invested $500,000 in developing this new app for the agent. They can then deduct that from their taxes as a business expense. And if you haven't noticed yet, Real is growing very, very quickly. Right now, their big priority is just to get in all 50 states. And again, this means that they have to invest a lot of money and resources into expanding in all 50 states. They may not get a return on that investment until down the road. Let's say they open up a brand new state, right? They have a broker there, they're making sure they're in compliance with all the state and regulation. They start off with 0 agents when they're in that state. They may not actually break even until they have 50 agents, or 100 agents, or 200 agents. I'm not sure what the number is, but opening a new state, they're at a net loss for doing that with the expectation that they're going to be profitable for opening up that new state later on down the road. So when I see that revenue is up, profit is up, cash flow is up, but that they're reporting a net operating loss, that's a good thing. That means that they are growing the company, they're trying to expand the company, and they're reinvesting that money back into the company. Now the report goes on to say that they surpassed 2,550 agents in July of 2021, and that's a 135% increase since July of 2020. So 100% increase means that they've doubled, so that means that they've more than doubled their agent count from Q2 of 2020 to Q2 of 2021, which is a great sign that they are growing and are expanding. It also says that the value of completed real estate transactions grew 853% in Q2 of 2021 compared to Q2 of 2020. So again, both those numbers are exactly what you want to see in a company that you'd want to invest in or be part of. They're both up and to the right. Now this next line in the report really kind of caught my attention. I've never really considered this before, but it says here that the net revenue per agent grew to $1.5 thousand, which represents an increase of 362% compared to $362 in Q2 of 2020. So as an agent, this is not a number that we typically see or even are aware of, but it makes sense, that companies to track what is their revenue on average per each real estate agent that they have in this company. And this is a huge growth from $326 per agent to $1.5 thousand per agent is huge. And I think what we're seeing here is that economy of scale. If Real has some really expensive software and infrastructure in place and they have 1,000 agents, when they get to 3,000 agents, they don't really have to grow that infrastructure too much. It's already in place. And this principle of economy of scale absolutely applies to this cloud brokerage model. And what makes this model so much more profitable than a typical franchise model. The report goes on to say that as of June 30th, 2021, Real offered real estate brokerages services in 31 US states and had 41 full-time agents. So the end of Q2, they had 31 states. I believe this is the most recent numbers, and we just finished Q3. Real is now in 36 states, plus DC, and plus one province in Canada. And I actually don't even think that this chart represents the most recent data because we actually just passed 3,000 agents. So as of right now, we may be even in more states than that. So again, this is another good sign, right? That the number of states that we're in is up and to the right. It's constantly growing. We're constantly expanding. And in this last quarter, Q3, we just got our first province in another country, right? So after we get all 50 states, which I think we're probably going to get all 50 states in the next 12 months or so, then what we got to look for is how many countries are we in, right? And we're already in our second country. I'm sure we're going to fill up all the provinces in Canada pretty soon as well. Now this next line talks about a ratio, which again, I've never heard of before, but I find really fascinating. And I think again, it hits home how powerful the economy of scale is to this business model, and why typical franchise brokerages are going to have a really hard time competing with cloud-based brokerages because of this one specific number. So it says here, as of June 30th, 2021, Real's efficiency ratio, full-time employees to agents, was 1:61, with a long-term goal of 1:75. Real views this as a competitive advantage in terms of how quickly and efficiently it can scale and provide benefit in profit margins. The industry standard ratio is approximately 1:25. So saying that the industry standard for real estate is that you have one employee for every 25 real estate agents in your company. So what would that look like? You would have a broker and then an office manager and then maybe an in-house accountant and transactional coordinator and HR, yada, 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 all these other office workers in order to support the real estate agents. So if you had a brokerage of 400 real estate agents with a 1:25 ratio, that means you need to hire 16 full-time employees to support those 400 real estate agents. But Real has a 1:61 ratio right now. They want to have a 1:75 ratio. So 1:75 compared to the industry standard of 1:25, that means that they are 3 times more efficient. They need 3 times fewer employees to support that many real estate agents. Because we don't have physical brick and mortar offices, we can just eliminate a lot of employees. Just think about Keller Williams, for example. Let's say they have 20 franchise owners and 20 offices in the state of Maryland. How many employees is that? But Real, they have one broker per state and everything is cloud-based. So they just have that economy of scale right there. They can support the same amount of agents with far fewer employees. And they're also heavily leveraging technology as well. And just by leveraging that technology, that alone can eliminate a lot of employees. And that's how they're getting to this goal of one employee for every 75 agents. When you start looking at companies in this light with their efficiency ratio or their revenue per agent, there's just no way that the old school franchise brokerages can compete with this new business model of a cloud brokerage. And the report goes on to say that Real ended Q2 of 2021 with a cash balance of $3.79 million and an additional $8.9 million held in investments in securities, compared to $1.7 million at the end of Q1. So at the end of Q1, they had $1.7 million in their bank account at cash, pretty much. Now they have about $45 million sitting in their bank account. So just put that in perspective for a moment. They reported a net operating loss of $2.9 million, but they literally have $45 million sitting in their bank account right now. That means that they are growing. They're investing that money in expanding the company, and they're just deducting those expenses from their taxes, which is what they should be doing. So when I look at this report, this gives me absolute confidence that this company is growing very quickly. They're investing their money back into the company, and that this model is absolutely the future of the industry. There's just no way that franchise brokerages can compete with this business model. And I'll have a link to this press release down in the description below this video if you want to check it out yourself. Once they release Q3 numbers, I'll probably make a video about that as well. If you guys are considering joining Real, I want you to email me at malcolm@livinginmaryland.com. I'd be happy to email you over a packet of information breaking down all the different programs and incentives that they have at Real, as well as a copy of their independent contractor agreement if you want to do a deep dive into that. And we can also set up a time to hop on a one-on-one Zoom video call where I can talk to you more about the company, see if you'd be a good fit for you. If you're not quite ready for that, you can also click right here to check out some of my other Real Broker videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you.